Okay. Hello, hello. Just giving it a minute to refresh. Hi, everybody. Just waiting for Facebook to refresh to tell me that I'm live, and it's always live like a year before I think I am. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I see myself. So say hi if you're live. I see a few people on already. And hopefully my phone will fix up here so I can see everybody's comments. We'll just give it a minute here. I'm going to get started in about 30 seconds to a minute. Just want to let the tech refresh and make sure I can see you guys, and then give people a minute to join. Let me know how the connection is if you're live. Weird, I'm having trouble with everything right now. Okay. Now I can see comments. Okay, good. Connection's good. Thank you, Allison. Okay, that was weird. I couldn't see any comments and I couldn't even validate that I was live. So now we are good. So hi, hello, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday, my regular live. I am excited to be here. Today's topic is when a potential client says no. And I have a lot to say on this subject. So I want to first start, for those of you who are live, just if you have any specific things that come up for you when you get a no, I would love to address them specifically, because I feel like there's so much to say about this topic that I could go in several different directions. And I have a lot of notes and a lot of things that I can say and I plan to say. But for those of you who are live, if there's something specific, questions that you have or challenges that you have around what happens when somebody says no, I'm actually going to leave. I've left this one a little bit open, just because, like I said, I feel like it can go in several different directions. So as I'm talking, or go ahead now, if you have a piece of, like I said, if you have a concern, if you have a question, if there's something that really always kind of gets you around this, whether it's a mindset thing, whether it's a practical thing, whether it's a strategy thing, whatever it is that sort of gets your goat around people saying no, if you feel comfortable sharing and being vulnerable, I would be super happy to address, or at least try to address your concern, maybe even give you a little bit of coaching. Because here's what I know to be true about groups in general, but especially about this group, is that when one person has a question, it's something that other people are dealing with as well. So hopefully you can hear me with all of a sudden, I think all the cars on the road and all the airplanes in the air decided to go by today, just now today. So when a potential client says no, so the first thing, and like I said, if you guys are live, just let me know what your thoughts are, what your concerns are, and I will address them as we go. I think there's a lot of things that happen when we're speaking to a client or a potential client, right? So depending on what your business model is, this is going to be a little different, right? So some of you are in more of a service-oriented business where you're a coach, you're a light worker, you're a healer, you're a helper in some way, right? And some of that could be, sort of in that ballpark that I just described, where you're helping people, with all different kinds of things. But then you may also have like a more practical offer that you provide to people, like maybe you're a website designer or a copywriter or a VA or something like that, right? And then there are people who have more product-based organizations, companies, businesses as well. And it's going to be a little bit different, right? But ultimately, and I'm going to try to speak to all, but I think ultimately, even though it manifests differently and like the no looks different, right? Like, if I don't buy your jewelry, or I don't buy your art, or I don't watch your TV show, that's a no, versus, you know, which is the same kind of sort of as, you know, a coach like me having a discovery call and somebody says no. Okay. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm just aware of the fact that there are lots of different ways that no's manifest. And I just want to at least start by just sort of setting up, what do I mean by no? Okay. So maybe you pitch something to a product to sell someone and they don't buy it. You make them an offer for the services that you provide and they don't take it. Right. So first off, I have a couple of things that I feel like everybody knows this, but I just think it's important, especially, this is a really good one, you guys, to like bookmark and come back to next time you get stuck in a no, because I think it's the kind of thing that, like, you know, but like you're certainly not thinking about right after you get a no, especially if it sort of throws you off. So the first thing I want to say is sometimes a no is not a no, right? And I don't mean this in the context of dating and like sexual consent, right? That's over there. A no is always a no in that bucket. But when it comes to doing business, a no sometimes is no, and a no is sometimes, I think we need to look at it differently, is maybe a better way to say it. Just checking here. Okay. So sometimes a no is not now, right? Sometimes a no is not now. Oh, really cool. I see that you have this program. It's really neat. I think it might help me, but I just don't think that this is the right timing. So I'm going to say no, right? Or sometimes, and I'm going to, well, I think sometimes you get a yes. Like, let's back it up. Sometimes you get a yes. Okay. And sometimes that yes stays a yes, and sometimes the yes becomes a no. Right? Has anybody ever had somebody say, yes, I want to buy this thing from you, and then they never do? Or, yes, I want to sign up for your program, or yes, I want to work with you, and then they change their mind a week later. Okay, totally happens all the time. Sometimes people say no. People will give you 9 million reasons as to why the no is a no, right? Sometimes it's a, I need to think about it, and then it's just, they sort of fall off. So that's a no. Sometimes it's a maybe, which is kind of like, and I need to think about it. Sometimes it's a, I'm not sure of the timing, right? Which I guess is, again, a maybe. Sometimes a no is a, I really know that I need this and I'm scared. So sometimes a no is, I think I'm supposed to be a yes, but I'm a no because I'm scared. And I think that happens a lot when people say, I don't have the money. And I don't mean they're pretending like they don't have the money because they're really scared of whatever it is you're going to help them with. That might be the case too. But I think sometimes it's, I'm scared of spending this money. I'm scared that if I spend this money on this thing, that I won't have it for something else. Right? Scared can be anything, right? Or maybe like, maybe the thing that you're going to help them with, whether it's doing their books or doing their website, or you know, helping them with some mindset block. Like, there's always a mindset thing happening in the background of making that decision. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe I know that I know that I need a new website, but I know that if you help me with my website, I'm going to have to figure out how to articulate better what it is that I do. And that's a sticky point for me because I don't really know how to explain what I do. And that doesn't feel good. And so if I agree to do my website, which I know I need, and you feel like the right person to do my website, but I'm not ready to own up to the stuff that I need to do around my website, then I might say no. Right? So I guess my point with all of this is, so oftentimes, right, people say no and we make it about ourselves. People say no and we make it about us. Or they say yes and then they become a no, or they say maybe and then they become a no, right? Or you decide that they're a no because they never reply back to your messages, okay? And I think that I see so often the the person making an offer assumes that it's about us. Okay. So side note, yes, yes, yes. There's always an opportunity to do better with your sales pitches and your discovery calls and your ability to sell your services or your product. There's always an opportunity to improve that. Okay. And so if you really do feel like for the most part, you're uncomfortable with the whole process, then that's a really beautiful space for you to seek some coaching or some training around. I'd be happy to support you in something like that. Okay. That's a side note because that's actually not what I'm talking about today. This topic, this conversation is sort of based on the fact that you're probably doing an okay job of making your sales pitch and connecting with your customer. Again, we can always all do a better job, and there's always time. There's always a valid, it's always a valid action to take a minute and reflect on what did I do well in that conversation and what could I have done better? Okay, so this is not to take away from that. I always think there's something that we could improve upon. And I always also think that it's important to acknowledge what we did right. Okay. But I'm putting that a little bit to the side because this conversation is to help you stop beating yourself up when someone else says no. And to how to figure out a way to put it into perspective. And we're going to talk about the mindset piece of this, but then there's also some more like structures and practical things and like strategies that you can put in place in your business that will also support you in managing the no's. So we're going to really cover both of those today. So my point is, I'm going back. My point is, so oftentimes we think there's something wrong with us. We think there's something wrong with what we're offering. Should I go back then and change my offer? Because she said it was too much money. So then should I charge less? Right? Or she said she can't commit to, I do a 5-month program. Let me just pretend that somebody told me maybe they can only do 3 months. Do I have a 3-month program? I really don't have a 3-month program. So maybe should I create one for her? Right? Sometimes the presented answer of the no is the truth. And sometimes it's just a nice way of saying no. Right? And sometimes it's what they know to be true, but it might not actually be true. Like, I don't have the money right now. That may or may not be true. And that has nothing to do with them lying to you. That has everything to do, it may have everything to do with their perspective on how much money they have. Because so oftentimes when people have a money issue, they actually don't realize how much money they do have. Right? So when you're making it about you, you're over simplifying the situation. So I want to back up. I had something else I wanted to say on this topic before I move on. Yeah. So I want to back up and I want to say one of the things that I talked about in the beginning was all the different ways that people could say yes, no, maybe, and something in between. How many times do you spend your life? How much time do you spend after a no? Replaying it in your head, thinking, should I offer something different? Deciding that you did something wrong, basically making it about you. Or trying to figure out what they were thinking, right? Sometimes it can be like dating. Well, he didn't call me, but I don't know. Does that mean maybe he will call me tomorrow? Right? At what point after he doesn't call do I decide that he doesn't like me and he's never going to call? We do the same thing with our clients. And we spend time with our girlfriends, with our business coaches, with our business besties talking about, well, maybe she's thinking this and maybe the person's thinking that and maybe they'll buy next week and maybe this is another thing and maybe they're thinking this, right? It doesn't serve you a lot to try to get in their minds and understand why they said no. It really doesn't serve you. In the same way that it doesn't serve you when you're trying to get in somebody else's mind about why did somebody not call? What, do they not like me? Did they like me, but maybe they're really busy and they haven't called, right? Like I can always relate things in business back to dating. So rather than making it a rejection of you, rather than trying to overly figure out and analyze the situation about what's going on in the other person's mind, here's, I think, the best way that I have come up with to think about it. And I do think about it like dating. Number one, any kind of, I'm just going to call this a business partnership for lack of a better word. So whether you're like me, I'm a coach and I sell one-on-one programs and I sell group programs and somebody agrees to work with me for a set period of time. Okay, so that I'm just going to call that a business partnership. Or you create art and I decide to buy it. That's a business partnership, even though it's fairly short if I buy one piece, right? And that's it. But whatever it is that you're selling, that's a business partnership, right? Especially if you're having, and again, context of this conversation is that you're having some sort of in-person conversation or virtual conversation with this person. So if you sell stuff online and somebody buys online, that's great too. You're also building a relationship virtually. You have social media, but you may or may not be actually communicating with them. But the point of today is about you make an offer specifically to someone in some way on a phone call, in a text message, in a person, and they say yes or no. And that's a business. I'm just calling that a business partnership for lack of a better word. Okay. Business partnerships, just like dating, are a two-way street. And it's a two-person responsibility. So if I'm a coach and I will work with anybody who decides to take my offer, I'm not doing my due diligence. I should be doing my due diligence in the discovery calls to decide if I want to work with this person, to decide if I think I can help this person, to decide if this is the kind of person that I enjoy working with, that I think I can connect with at a deep level to really help them change what's happening in their business. So just like a first date, they should be deciding if they want to work with me, and I should be informing them about what I do and how I can help them. And I should be deciding if I think it's a good fit too. It's fit. That's what I always say with my discovery calls. Hop on a call with me and see if it's a good fit. It's kind of like dating. We both have the responsibility of saying yes or no, right? And then just like speed dating, if you both say yes, then it's a match. Or online, I think too, like you both have to like each other to get matched up or something, right? So it's been a while since I've been on a dating app. Okay, I'm not seeing any comments. Let me know if you guys have questions or if this is making sense. So it's not about you being rejected and something being wrong with your offer and trying to get into the other person's head. Ultimately, it's a two-way street. It's a two-way decision. It's a partnership. And what's a partnership? Like somewhat equal, no matter what you offer, whatever, right? Like it's an energetic exchange. Somebody's going to pay you money to provide your service or pay you money to give them your product. It's a partnership. Both have to make a decision. Now, it's a little bit different for people sometimes who sell products, but maybe not. I mean, I don't know. You guys, Courtney makes jewelry, Siklinda does art. There's a whole lot of artists in here. Like, you know, do you sell to anybody? Maybe you do. I don't know. But you still have that decision to make, right? If that person is in front of you. So it's about a two-way decision. That's the truth of it. That's the truth of it. And each person has the right to say yes or no. It doesn't necessarily need to be personal. It doesn't necessarily need to be something that you take personally, even if what you offer is super deeply personal, like pretty much everybody in this group, right? You guys all, like me, have created something in your business, and you, like I always say, like, this is my baby. Like my programs are my babies. And like, I'm offering you this really I think really beautiful service and program and thing that you can benefit from, that I created out of like my heart and soul and brain, right? out of my experience and what I know to be true and my gifts and my talents. Like, this is what I offer. So it's really easy to be offended and take it personally. But they're not saying no to that or to you. They're saying no to the fit. And so just like a dating situation, right? How many times have you had somebody reject you? And I'm just going to use that term because that's how people always perceive it. Have somebody reject you in a dating situation. Okay, they broke up with you, they divorced you, they didn't call you after the first date, second date, 20th date, whatever. But then in hindsight, like a month later, a year later, 10 years later, you look back on that example and you go, oh my God, thank God that person left, like walked out of my life. Thank God. Because they were not the right person for me, or they weren't the right person for me anymore, right? I've been in several relationships that were, I guess all of my relationships that were absolutely right in the moment for me. But then they stopped being right for me and probably for him as well. And then one of us left the other one, or we mutually broke up, right? Thank God thank goodness for the times that people say no to us, because it wouldn't have been right if both parties weren't super jazzed about it, right? You don't really, especially for you coaches and healers, like you don't really want to work, or anybody for that matter, who provides a service or a longer term service where you're going to be interacting with the person for a while. You don't really, like, you might want the sale, but what you really want, you don't want to work with somebody who doesn't want to work with you, or who doesn't want to work with you as much as you want to work with them. Because you're probably going to have a harder time getting them results. It's going to be harder. It's just not going to be easier and flowier. And they're not going to actually benefit from what you do as much as they could, whatever. Right? So looking at it as a fit, looking at it as a partnership, everybody has a responsibility to make a decision for themselves, I think is really important. And then I think also decision making is a huge piece of it. For those of you who are coaches, healers, helpers in some way, a lot of times I feel like my job is to coach somebody through making this decision. Are they going to hire me or not? I think that's my ethical responsibility as a coach, first off. And secondly, that's one of the things I help my clients do, is make decisions. So why would I not offer that, peek into my services on a discovery call and coach them through what makes the most sense for them? That empowers them to make the right decision for them, which, by the way, is the right decision for me, whether it's a yes or a no. That's them making that decision, even if I'm wanting. So let's say I really want to work with somebody and I think I can help them and I really feel like there's a good fit and a good synergy with them and I really like them, whatever. And they're kind of on the fence. Like, my job isn't to talk them into buying my stuff. My job isn't to talk them into hiring me. My job is to coach them on making that decision for themselves. Right? It's their decision. And so if I talk them into it, then I've sold myself into something. And later that person may or may not regret their decision because they listened to what I told them to do instead of what they were telling themselves to do. So it's their decision, whether they make it out of fear or out of a good, healthy way of making a decision. And I have to trust, going back to that partnership thing, I have to trust that they can make, their grown adults, business owners in my case, or my clients, like, they can make a decision for themselves. It's not my job to sell them into something. Now, I think a lot of what real sales is doing a good job of connecting with the person, helping them understand that you can solve their problem if you can, if that's a fit, and giving them a demonstration, showing them how you can help them and what results you can get them. That, I think, is sales. But like basically telling them they need to hire you is different, right? The sales part that I think a lot of people find slimy is it's their decision. And so in some ways, like, once you're clear on some of the basics of like you understanding what you offer, how you can help them, all those things that I just said, then it's really, the pressure's off. It's up to them. It's up to them. And really the call, no matter what you're selling, service or product, the call should really be like focused on them and their concerns, problems, desires anyway. hey, I'm looking for a painting that fits right here over my couch. This is my style. What do you have that might fit that, right? That's where the conversation goes. People come to me, hey, I have this problem with my business. I'm looking to grow more clients, or I see the mindset issues that I have, or both, right? Okay, cool. Let's dive in and talk about that. And let's see, this is how I would work with you to approach that problem. This is how I think that you can get on the other side of it. And this is what I think you can get on the other side. How does that feel to you? This is my style. How does that feel to you? Like, we talk about them. I sprinkle in little pieces, right? But it's about them. They've got to make the decision. Again, you've got to make the decision as well, because it's a partnership. But it's really just that, right? It's not a personal rejection. They didn't not like your shirt, right? It's really not about you. Surprise, it's not about you. Okay, I'm seeing a couple of comments. I'm just going to jump in here and then I will keep going. Courtney says, making sense, soaking it in. Allison says, making sense. Thank you. Courtney says, definitely decide who I want to work with on anything other than what I put on my website. Yep, that makes sense, Courtney. I rarely do customs, but sometimes folks just get it and it fuels me and it's exciting. So then you say yes. Yeah, Courtney makes some beautiful jewelry, beautiful jewelry. Yeah, right? Like, you know, if you can create a custom piece of jewelry for someone or not, or if they're going to be the kind of person that's never going to be satisfied, right? And of course, we're always going to, like, there's always lessons in learning, right? Like, I've worked with people that, you know, for the time was good. But ultimately I realized that the direction that I was going and the direction that they were going in was different, right? You have to, like, just be okay with that. And again, like, sort of like, I think, you know, we have lots of people come in and out of our lives for different purposes, and some of them for long periods of time and some of them for short. And I can't tell you how many discovery calls I've had that ended up not becoming clients, but ended up serving my life in some other way. And that's the other side of this that I really want to talk about. You never know where these conversations are going to go. I've had discovery calls and then people call me a year later and hire me. I've had discovery calls that turned into collaboration partnerships, into long-term friendship slash colleague relationships of people that I know that run businesses that I can call and go, hey, I'm thinking about this new thing that I want to offer. Can I just, like, run it by you and get your thoughts? Or I'm really struggling with X. Do you know somebody who has a specialty in this area that I could hire? Have you hired anybody that helped you with this? Like, I have so many business friends and colleagues, other entrepreneurs that I know I can go to for certain things, and they know they can go to me for certain things, because we're all in this together, right? And I was so glad in a way that they didn't hire me, because I would never have known that this was really this was the trajectory, or this was where our relationship was meant to be. It wasn't supposed to be coachee. It was supposed to be, you know, colleagues helping each other out. Not to say that you can't have multiple roles in your relationships with people, but you just never know where it's going to go. I've also had discovery calls with people who ended up being no's and then sent me a referral. So you just don't know. You just don't ever know. And I think the mindset around it of a couple things, the mindset around zooming in and looking at it in this tiny little moment, is really what happens, right? Like, okay, first off, the whole taking it personally thing. If you guys have questions, for those of you who are live, if you have questions about that or things that are still sticky for you around taking it personally, let me know and I'll come back to it. But not making it personal, looking at it as a big picture, two people making a decision, and it's a fit thing. It's also a timing thing. I don't think I mentioned that before. So they need to make a decision. You need to make a decision. There's this collective, like, partnership. Are we both a yes? Okay, then it's a yes. That's all, like, fit and partnership. But then there's also a timing thing. And part of the reason I created this live topic is because I just started working with a new business coach, new to me, sort of. I've been in her world for many years. but I finally just started working with her one-on-one. And one of the things that I was reminded of was that I've actually been, like I said, I've been in her world for a long time while I had other business coaches. And I had a discovery call with her last spring, early summer. I want to say late spring of last year. And I decided not to work with her at that point in time. And I remember saying to her, I feel like I'm supposed to work with you. For some reason, it doesn't feel like now. And that was the truth. That was all I knew in that moment. And I think that's the other thing. Like, so often people, like, most of the time, people are not lying to you. Maybe they're sugarcoating, maybe they're being extra nice, and that's fine. It's not your business, by the way, to know what's really going on in their heads. It's really not your bees. None of y'all beeswax, right? It's not your business. It's not your business. What was I going to say? But I told her the truth as I knew it in that moment. And it really was the right answer. I needed to continue with the person I was working with. But I told her no. And she wrote me back this, because I had interviewed several people. So I told everybody that I was going to be reaching back out to them. And she wrote me back the most validating, supportive response, basically coaching me. Even though I basically told her she was not going to be my coach, she coached me around that and said, you know, I don't even know what she said. In fact, I should go back and look, but it was basically like, you know, I trust you to make the right decision for you. I would love to work with you down the road if that becomes a thing that you want to do. Meanwhile, I'm still here cheering you on, whatever. I don't know what it said, but something like that. It was so positive. It was so validating. And she was still acting like a coach, even though I had not paid her for anything. She was still acting like a coach, which she wasn't acting like a coach. She was still being the coach that she is. And when I read that, it validated for me again that I wanted to work with her at some point. That she saw me, she celebrated me for making the decision and moving forward. However that affected her was not her business, right? It was not for her, you know, to worry about. And then I hired her, right? So there's always different ways to look at it. Just like anything in life, hindsight's 20/20, and you can't always connect the dots. And so your job in any sales call, discovery call, whatever it is, your job is to create space to have an authentic conversation about this potential partnership. Courtney, oh honey, that's how I feel about you too, love. I know it's coming. I feel it, love. I feel it, right? So your job in a sales call is to create that space to have an honest conversation for both parties to make a decision. And your part of it is to help them understand their problem or what it is that they want, right? And whether or not you can help them solve it or get it, or both. And how you might do that and what that might look like. That's it. Okay. I want to look at one other thing. Oh, the other thing. Oh my gosh. Like I said, back to the dating thing where I said, you know, aren't there those people that broke up with you or rejected you back in the moment, that in that moment was devastating and you took it personally and was horrible? Then you realized later, okay, that was really great for my life's path because I needed to be in X place or doing something else or with the next guy or whatever it was, right? Can you look at your client conversations like that too? So can you be grateful for because I'm talking about, I've given you a lot of examples of no's that become yeses or no's that become something positive. And I think that happens all the time. And when we are laser focused on it from a small perspective and not looking at it from the benefit of hindsight, which we don't have in that moment. So we have to just be big picture and trust. But there are a lot of no's that are simply no's and never become anything. I kind of like to say to those people, thank you for being either a clear no on the call or being a clear no down the road because you didn't respond to my messages or whatever it was. Thank you for being a clear no, because you didn't take up any space for me being able to focus on my yeses. Which means the clients that I already serve and the clients that I'm looking to serve in the future. Because every time I have a conversation with a potential client, they're in that bucket as far as I'm concerned, right? There's still a possibility for them to be a coachee for me in the future. And when somebody says no, I like to, and sometimes it's hard because I'm like, oh, I really wanted to work with this person, right? But thank you for telling me that you're a no in whatever way, shape, or form that you did, so that I don't spend any more time in this area and I just spend my time with yeses and potential yeses. Right? There's a gratitude for that. There can be a real gratitude for that. Okay, let me just see what else I wanted to say about that before I move to the next piece. Oh, okay. I want to get to the practical, but there's a couple more things about mindset. So let me know if there's anything else that you guys have around taking it personally, whether you're live or on the replay. Like, let me know. I'll come back in and comment. Okay. So I'm just going to back up to a couple of these funky mindset things and offer you the other alternative. So rather than making it about you, make it about them, their decision, make the conversation about them and their business or whatever it is that you're helping them with, the topic of the day. And make it about the big picture partnership, the two-way street partnership. And in that way, really nobody can be rejected, because the truth is, it's just, are we a fit or not? Just like dating, right? It's not, I'm not saying that it's easy, but if you back up, it's really that, like, it's not that somebody's wrong or bad or not good enough or any of that stuff. That's really the truth of all of it. It's a fit, it's a compatibility thing. So don't make it about you. Okay. If you're taking it personally, I think the easiest thing to do is to zoom out, because when you're taking it personally, you're looking at it like this, right? Zoom out and recognize that you have no idea where this relationship is going to go. And that person could call you back the next week and say, oh my gosh, the thing that you suggested on our call, I did, and it worked. And I'm here. You were right. I should have hired you from the beginning. Here I am. Or, hey, I know this didn't work for us, but my friend is looking for somebody, and I'd like you to talk to her, right? You never know where it's going to go. So you've got to just let it be and wait and see what happens. Which brings me to my next piece. So many times we're zoomed in and we're looking at it because we need the effing sale. Or we think we need the sale. We're attached to the sale in some way. No matter what our financial situation is, for whatever reason, sometimes we approach, and there's no judgment here. We're all running a business and we're all making money, right? It doesn't matter what you do. I am shitting. It doesn't matter what you do. We're all making money. That is a piece of this process, right? And there's no apologies for that. We're not apologizing for that in this space. And when you approach a call from a needy, desperate, oh my God, I got to pay my rent space, or whatever the next step is. Okay, if I don't make this sale today, then I've only got a few more days left to make my goals for this week, this year, this month, whatever. I tried to say this month and it came out all the others. Or if you approach it from a needy space, not necessarily from a financial perspective, but you approach it because you get validation, personal validation, when somebody signs up to work with you, right? If you're looking to your clients for those things and those things only, you will have a hard time being fulfilled in your work. Very, very, very hard time being fulfilled in your work. And if those are the things that you're aware of, there's no judgment here. We all have stuff. We all have stuff. I'm just poking out the ones that I've seen before in these areas, and that you could have other stuff, right? But at least then you know where the work is. That's one of the things I love about mindset work is like when you find it, I always get really excited because then you know where to focus your time and your energy on the mindset piece, on that mindset piece. Oh, okay. I thought I had a problem with money, but the truth is I have a problem with my self-worth. Okay, great. Awesome. Not awesome that you have a problem with your self-worth, but awesome that you figured that out, because then you can dive into that. Okay, so when you're approaching it from a needy space or a desperate space, or, oh my God, I've got to make a sale because I haven't made a sale in a month. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million in the bank, right? You could be approaching it from that perspective. I'm just annoyed that I haven't made a sale in a month. So now I got to really, I can't believe this person said no. What did I do wrong? Maybe because you needed the sale. Maybe your energy was a little wonkified, right? The easiest way I know, one, do your work. Do your work is always the answer to mindset work. But I just like to always sprinkle little different perspectives. And one shift in perspective that might work for you, this might not be your way of shifting your perspective, but if you're approaching it from a needy money space or a needy validation space, because that's how you get your validation from people. One way that especially the money piece, one thing that I like to do is to instead focus on having a pipeline of people to reach out to and who reach out to me for conversations. So if you have a pipeline of people, and you can get that in many, many different ways, everybody has their own strategy. But if you have a pipeline of people, and by pipeline, I could just mean, well, I'm going to look at my calendar for this month and I see that I have 3 more discovery calls after this one. Then I can approach this discovery call from an abundance mindset, because if you say no, all good, I got 3 more coming next week. And reminding myself of that is one of the mindset hacks that really shifted things for me, because I didn't stay in the moment on the call, I was laser focused on the person, right? But I wasn't laser focused when I finished the call on looking at it from that tiny, small-minded one day's perspective. I could zoom out and go, I want to make X dollars or X number of sales this month, but I have all these calls. So like, I'll probably hit it within some of those numbers. And like just deciding that, right? It's fine. That's an abundance mindset. Like, I love the phrase that used to piss me off when I was a kid. Or not even a kid, like in my 20s. People say, you break up with somebody and go, that's okay, there's more fish in the sea. I did not like that because it felt at the time dismissive for me of the relationships that I was mourning or whatever it was. But there are more fish in the sea. There's 7 billion people on this planet. Like, there's plenty of people to help you make your goals. There's plenty of people that are looking for what you have. And when you're needing the one, and it's not to diminish, I love my clients and I build really, really deep, meaningful relationships with my clients. Many of my clients become friends of mine. That's not to diminish the relationships that you have or can create with your clients, but it is to say that you don't need them. If you do, they're going to pick up on that, even if it's subtly, and it's going to be harder to make a sale, because then they don't want to be feeding into this thing that you need of them. They actually should be coming to you because they need your services, your expertise, your product, right? So I think it's helpful when you're especially in a small mindset space around money to zoom out and think about, and then also put your focus in the pipeline. Put your focus in bringing in more people, either into your space, into your calls, into whatever container you have. Like for me, it's in this Facebook group, whatever. Focus on that. And then you're not so focused. Then you have the ability to detach, which is a whole nother conversation of really what detachment means. It doesn't mean you don't care. right? But to detach from the outcome of whether that person you talked to yesterday, who you really love and you really want to work with, to detach from whether they're going to say yes to you tomorrow, because you're just going back to your job, back to the things you had planned for today, and focusing on continuing to build your pipeline. And then when they say yes, you'll be super excited, but not because you needed them, right? And when they say no, you'll be like, that's cool. I've got others and I really genuinely wish you well. And I'm here if you change your mind. And then the energy's clean and not wonkified around that. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. So I've got a couple of practical suggestions for you guys, and then we will wrap up. So if you have questions, now is your moment. I still see, oh yeah, there's still several people live. So my practical piece is twofold. One, I already mentioned, have a pipeline. Have a pipeline, focus on your pipeline. Let that be a part of your weekly tasks. If that's something that you need help with creating, give me a call. Hop on a free call with me. I've been talking about discovery calls all day. A pipeline's not the same for everybody, right? Some people have ClickFunnels, some people have Facebook groups, some people have networking groups, some people have really good luck with just plain old social media posts on business pages, right? There's and then there's a whole lot of other stuff you can do with in-person businesses. And that's just a few off the top of my head. You've got to figure out a pipeline that makes sense for you and for where your people are hanging out. But when you spend time building your pipeline, it's a totally different focus. And it's easy to not get attached to the one person that called you this week and the one person that's going to call you next week, or however many people you talk to on a regular basis. It just keeps you continually moving. And like I said, and then you don't need the client. So number one, have a pipeline and have some of your focus be on the pipeline. And then so that's my tactical piece suggestion, but it's also a mindset piece because I think it's a really good tip. When you're before you get on a sales call, I think it's important to get your mindset in a good spot and your energy in a good spot. And everybody's different as to what works for them. But as I said, if you're the person that's going to that you're going to kind of default to obsessing over whether this person's going to hire you or buy your stuff or whatever it is, then I think it's really good to zoom out and to go find some data in advance, not right before the call, because you don't want to go, well, let me see what my pipeline is right before the call and then decide that it's not good enough. That's not going to help you. When you find good data about your business, whatever that is, January was my biggest month ever. In my entire time being in business, January was my biggest month ever. And I will tell you, I have used that over and over and over again in my mind to remind me of how far I've come since the beginning of February, when I realized that January was my biggest month ever. So I've been writing that out for the last, almost 6 weeks now. And anytime I have a moment, I have my own little things that I, use as, I like to call it evidence, right? So we have like these fearful thoughts, these fearful parts of ourselves that like to derail us, that like to tell us things aren't going to be okay, that like to tell us all kinds of things. And when that starts to happen, you have two choices. One is you do the work and you lean into it and you do the work. We don't always have it's not always the right timing to do the work, right? If you're 20 minutes before a sales call, it's probably not a good time to do some mindset work, right? Let me see if it's because of my mother, right? Not a good time. So when it's in those other moments like that, then your other option is to find something that has evidence against that belief system. So if I'm doubting something, then I'll be like, yeah, okay, if that's true, then why'd you have your best month ever in January? Okay, yeah, I guess everything is okay, right? Whatever it is that I was worrying about. So when you have these things, or if somebody writes you a testimonial that just like, oh, goes straight to the heart in a good way, put it near your phone, near your computer, put it near you, read it before your discovery calls, whatever it is. Find the evidence or the good positive reminders of the fact that you're doing so well. And let that be something that you remind yourself of when you hop on a discovery call. Again, if you're worried about, money, then I think it's a good thing to remind yourself before hopping on a call. It's okay. No matter what happens today, I still have 3 other calls next week. I'm good. And then I can just sort of more cleanly remove the gunk and not present that on my sales call, and just sit down and have a conversation with somebody to see if I can help them, right? So that's what the pipeline does. It's practical and it's mindset. I think it helps you mindset wise, right? Oh, no big deal if this person says no because I added 50 people to my Facebook group last month, right? Okay. And then the other is, I highly recommend, and you can use an Excel spreadsheet for this. There are plenty of systems that you can use for this too, but I think it's important to just know that like you can create a system that works for you. It doesn't mean that you need to spend money. And it also doesn't mean like, if you're somebody who's going to harp on something or obsess over something, then having a fancy system is probably not the best way to go for you, because you might overly obsess about it and it might just feed your obsession and your attachment to the thing. So if numbers are motivating for you, that's one thing. I'm going to get to this in a minute. I'm giving you a big preface for some reason. If numbers are motivating for you, this might be helpful. If numbers demotivate you or just give you the opportunity to judge yourself, then this may not be the best thing for you. But I think it's really helpful to have a structure to track leads and potential clients. And again, it can be an Excel spreadsheet. It can be a Google Doc. It does not have to be anything fancy. And there are plenty of, you guys know, there's plenty of systems out there if you want something fancy. I find it helpful to track because sometimes I've got somebody where I had a discovery call with someone, and maybe I'm waiting on them to get back to me if they're going to tell me, do they want to do pay in full or my payment plan, because I can't enter them in my system and send them a contract until I know the answer to that, right? I'm making this up. But sometimes I have to track people at different phases, right? I've had a discovery call and then they say, I'm not sure. And then they decide to have another discovery call, or they say, yes. And then I send them a contract, and then I need to follow up and make sure the contract is signed, right? So I have little things that I want to track. So I track it for that purpose, but I also track the no's, so that I can just take a quick note of what was said, where it went, how I felt, what was my piece of that partnership. Would I have wanted to work with them? What did I say in the call? And then after I reflect on it, okay, was I missing something? And maybe they wouldn't be the best fit for me either. Let me just see if I can sort of assess whether from my perspective, we were a good fit. And I make that note, because then that way, if they call again in a year, I don't have to remember, I can go back to that document and go, oh yeah, we really weren't a good fit. Right. So you can track the whole process of the sales process, which I find helpful, because I think it's really annoying to have to try to remember stuff like that. Once you've got 2 or 3 people in process, then it's just details. But also, if people say no, maybe another time, or no, I don't have the money right now, or no, maybe later, or maybe, then I really like to track it again so that I can decide in the moment after the call, when am I going to follow up with them? What feels good? If they told me that like they're getting ready to leave the country for 6 months and they're taking off and then they're coming back and then getting readjusted, and then I probably will wait like 8 months to reach out, or 7 months to reach out, right? But that would be different than somebody who says, let me just get through this month and see if I can make a good amount of money in my launch and then call you back. Okay, then maybe I'll just reach out to them at the end of their launch, see how their launch was. Like, let me just continue to develop this relationship, whether I sell something to you or not. So that helps me track how often I'm going to reach out to them, because everybody is different. If I'm going to even follow up with them, or if I decide, you know what, I'll let them call me, right? Because part of that sometimes is what somebody needs to work on. is taking an initiative and making a decision. And so maybe me following up with them is actually encouraging them to do it the old way. So maybe I decide that for them, I'm going to wait and ask and let them come to me. So there's all different reasons why you might take a different approach, but I decide that pretty much within that day or that week. And I put that in my tracking system. And again, that's another piece of data for you if you need it. When you do have a new offering, when you do have something that maybe this person would like, you can go back and look at your notes. Oh yeah, they would like this. And they might actually like that I've got it on sale right now, right? So you can reach out to people with new offers, new things that you think they would like because you have it written down. Or I say written down, but I mean like typed into it. Ideally, it's typed into a system. And I think there's something in putting down something on paper again, so that if you get down and you're like, oh my God, nobody's ever calling me, like if you have a low month, you can go back to your tracker and go, well, I've got people I haven't followed up with in a while. What if I followed up with them? Or nobody's called me all month. Yeah, but look, last month I was on the phone all month. Like it's balancing out. It's okay, right? There's so many times that like we decide something's not enough or not good enough just because of what's right in front of us right now. And it's like, hold on. Wait a minute. Let's look at the data. I was watching somebody's live the other day, and they said that one of their clients said something like, I don't know what they said. They said, I don't have enough money, or I'm not sure how I'm going to pay my bills next month, blah, 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 blah. And then they looked at their books and realized they had made some 50 grand that month or something, awesomely amazing. And they were like, why did I think that? Right? Because we just get stuck on what happened today or what happened this week. And I think it's so nice sometimes to be able to look at your books, look at your trackers, look at what's coming in. Sometimes if I have a low income month relative to what I wanted, I'll go and look at my sales for the month and go, oh, that feels good. Like I can find a way to justify anything for my brain to feel positive about my business. Not because I'm sweeping shit under the rug, but because it's really not about, and here's the final thing I want to say, like think about things. This has come up 2 or 3 times this week. Think about things. Allison says, love the tracking system idea. Yeah, I do too. Think about things like the stock market, right? If you were to decide how well you're doing in your business by tracking it like people track the stock market by the minute, by the hour, right? What does it do? It does this, right? Even by the day or the week. Like when you track the stock market that way, by the hour, the day, or the week, I personally don't think that's a very good indicator of what's happening with the stocks. To really understand what's happening with the stocks, you need to look at it on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, right? That's a much better way to look at your business results. And then you can still be happy, like January was my biggest month. You can still be happy about that. And you can still track that and look at that. It's not to say like go away and don't look at it. But when you're judging it negatively, it's usually because you're focused on what's right in front of you. You just got to know. Okay, but you've also are in the middle of your biggest month, right? Or I haven't had a call in 4 days, but I was overly busy last week, right? There's always some way to split that out. And so again, I started talking about a no, but I think this is also about how do you manage all your potential clients coming in and how do you think about them? So I love the tracking system. I love focusing on pipelines because I think that's really where it's at. And it's not that quantity is more important than quality. But I think when you can continue to bring in new blood into your world, that's always going to serve your business. And bring you you're always going to be serving your current clients or your current customers, but you also always want a regular, whatever regular is for you, influx of people. So there's the practical piece of that, the strategy piece of that, and the tracking system. But then whatever's also happening, I can't see the two separated. So you have to look at them both. Then you also look at what's happening with your mindset and find ways to use the data over here to help you, and also to keep zooming out, to not take it personally, to recognize that it's a partnership decision. Will serve you, because you will be having these calls or these conversations, these DMs, or whatever the communication vehicle is for your business, the rest of your business. You're always going to be selling. And the more comfortable you can get with it, and the more confident you can get with it, and the more you can keep your mind open and not be attached and needy and needing the one person in front of you, or the one sale in front of you, or the one contract in front of you, that is going to serve you always, 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 always. And ultimately, when that serves you, it serves your client, because it means that you can show up more cleanly, energetically to your potential clients and customers, because then you can really, then you're not making it about you either, right? We often make the no's about us, but then if we're worried about a potential no, then we're making the call about us energetically, right? Those calls aren't really about you. They're about the potential client. And is this a mutually beneficial agreement? Two-way street, two decisions. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I'm just going to check and see if there are any other comments as we close, and let me know if you're coming in on the replay. Let me know any questions or comments or concerns that you have, and I will come back in here and reply. Next week, I didn't write it down. What is it? Next week, I'm talking about DIY or hiring an expert. So definitely tune into that. If you have questions, bring those to the call on Wednesday, or shoot them to me even in advance. And I'll try to cover your question in the call. So I think a lot of times I've been having a lot of conversations with my clients about this. So that's where this topic arose. I think a lot of people are always in the process of making some sort of decision. Am I going to do that myself? Or am I going to hire somebody to do that? And I think finding a really nice balance in your business, and it's going to change over time, is really helpful. So those are the things that's what I'm going to be talking about next week. I'm super excited because it's like I said, I've been talking about it a lot lately, and I hope it will be helpful. And then the Wednesday after that, the 24th, is going to be our intuitive reading. I do an intuitive reading every single month. So please come to that. It is probably the coolest, most magical thing that I do in this group. And it gets the most participation as well. I basically channel intuitive guidance for you around your business questions. So bring a business question, bring a business problem, whatever is going on in your business that you need help with. This is an opportunity to get not only free coaching, but free intuitive guidance around it. The results that come out of this are always powerful, always really beautiful, because what one person needs to hear, multiple people need to hear. So you don't just get an answer to your question, you also get an answer to someone else's question that benefits you and your business. So it is by far the most potent, powerful, results-packed thing that I offer, and it's free, and it's in this group. And if you're curious about it and you're new to me, you can go back and look. Actually, I think I still have it in the announcements section, but you can go back and look through the live videos. I do one a month, and I think the February one, oh gosh, I think it was the 22nd. It was 2/22. So if you want to go back and look on 2/22, I did the last intuitive reading. I always set the intention that those readings benefit anyone who comes live or who catches the replay at any time. So if you watch the replay even now, almost a month later, or a few days, weeks later, I guarantee you're going to get something out of it. It really is a timeless experience and event. So please come to that as well. And I'll be posting reminders in the group. If you have, as always, if you have a topic request for these lives, let me know, and I will try to honor that. And thank you for joining me. I can't wait to see you next week. And if you are looking for a coach and you want some help with discovery calls or anything else that's going on in your business, hop on a free call with me. I'm always open to that. Talk to you soon. Happy Wednesday. Bye, everybody.